Hello, architects, engineers, homeowners, and all stakeholders in the built environment. Once again, I am your host, Architect Edric Marco C. Florentino, for All About Shelters, and you are watching RA 9266 Part 3. Now, this is a series of short videos about the Architecture Act of 2004, otherwise known as RA 9266. Now, in this short video, I will be focusing on the definition of architecture and architect under Section 3, definition of terms, under Article 1, general provision of the Architecture Act of 2004. But before we get into that, let me just mention the first two sections under Article 1, general provision. All right? Okay. Section 1 is short title. Section 2 is statement of policy. By the way, these two sections I mentioned are in my previous videos. And if you haven't watched those two videos yet that I posted on this channel about my series on RA 9266, please do watch RA 9266 Part 1 and RA 9266 Part 2. And also, I have other videos on different topics about buildings. You might be interested to watch those videos as well. And, I look forward in your visit in those videos. Okay? Now, you know, Section 3, definition of terms under Article 1, general provision of the Architecture Act of 2004 has a long list of important and relevant words or or abbreviations of names or nouns that was described, you know, next to that word. Now, let me emphasize that this is an important section in this act because those word or short phrases were defined by the crafter of the law for the readers like you and me, to have a better understanding of the words, or short phrases listed in Section 3 definition of terms. But I don't think I can go, deep to discuss the entire listing indicated in Section 3 due to the allotted maximum time limit I have set for each short videos. Please take note that Section 3 definition of terms has identified 14 must defined words or short phrases, not counting, some word of words that what are attached under those main words. You will know what I'm trying to say, once we get into those, right? Okay. Now, so let me now open Section 3, definition of terms. Section 3 is the third section in this act, and it is the last section in Article 1, general provision. The title of Section 3 is definition of terms. But before I get to start into the listing, right, that is in Section 3, allow me to just say some few words about the meaning of definition of terms. You see, you and I must understand that the definition of term is an essential part in the writing of laws, of rules, or of policy, because the definition of terms will describe, explain, or expound the meaning of the term inside an act or a law that has great importance in that law. The importance of this section actually is to have the crafter and the reader to have the same line of thinking and understanding of the word or words or phrases in this act. so that both the reader and the crafter of the law would not have misunderstandings or misinterpretation of the words or phrases indicated under this law. Okay? I think that's clear. You know that all of us are stakeholders and we don't want misunderstandings or misinterpretation to happen in our projects, or else those misunderstandings and will end up to court cases or legal battles. That is one thing we really need to avoid, right? Now, to add, the definition of terms would give clarity to the words or phrase, that are written in this law. Well, I guess I was able to somehow nail my point on the importance of why there is a need, to have this particular section, like section 3, definition of terms in this law. All right, so since I could not post the entire section 3 in one screen, I thought of posting it per listing for us to be able to read it together, okay? And maybe give a piece of my thought on it, only if there is a need, of course. Okay, now, so let me now post the first word under section 3, definition of terms, for us to read it together. And maybe after, reading it, I would give my short view on those words. Okay? All right. So here it is, section 3, definition of terms. As used in this act, the following terms shall be defined as follows. Architecture is the art, science, or profession of planning, designing, and constructing buildings in the totality, taking into account their environment, in accordance with the principle of utility, strength, and beauty. Okay, I think that you are one with me that architecture is a fusion between arts and sciences that has the ability to create a beautiful and functional reality. Now, allow me to go deeper than that, okay? Um, it further goes that architecture is not only based on primarily on facts, studies, and researches, but has the passion to go breaking boundaries towards creation, innovation, and design. And I would like to add as well that architecture has a process of its own. Now, let me expound on that. You know, architecture emanates in the creativity of the mind of the creator. Then, from the image that was created in the mind of the creator, it shall now translate it into a, technically drawn and expounded, in written words. Now, from that state, those drawings and written words will now help the builders to beautifully mold the imagination into reality. This is what architecture is all about. And furthermore, architecture is the physical manifestation or evidence of design era of that particular stage. And it further suggests that it directs the behavioral pattern and living condition of the tenants in that particular space. So you see, architecture is truly an interesting topic. And this may eat up, all of my allotted time in this short video just for this subject alone. Maybe we can have a different video, dedicated on the subject alone. Why not, right? Okay, let's move on to the next word. The second word is architect, and I will post it here and let us read what it says. Number 2, architect means a person professionally and academically qualified, registered, and licensed under this act with a certificate of registration and professional identification card issued by the Professional Regulatory Board of Architecture. and the Professional Regulation Commission, and who is responsible for advocating the fair and sustainable development, welfare, and cultural expression of society's habitat in terms of space, forms, and historical context. Okay, basically, the crafter of the law emphasizes that an architect must have undergone the minimum basic academic requirement and curriculum needed for that particular person to take the regulatory examination in architecture. This would give that person the basic academic knowledge in architecture and must take and pass the board examination for architecture given by the Board of Architecture under the Professional Regulation Commission. And once passed, the passer now will be recognized as a registered and licensed architect. And furthermore, if I may add to that, the architect must be professionally responsible in all the services that is attached to his work. Okay? And moving now to the next one. Under this item, the architect may perform all or any of the following roles, right? Namely, the architect of record, architect in charge of construction, and consulting architect. I will be posting it here one by one as we go along. Okay? Letter A is architect of record. Means the architect registered and licensed under this act who is directly and professionally responsible for the total design of the project for the client and who shall assume the civil liability for the plans, specification, and contract documents she has signed and sealed. Now, the description here, written is very, very clear. But let me just put in some few words, no? That architect of record is primarily the main designer of the project. The architect of record is responsible in providing the technical drawing specification and a project probable cost needed for that project. These are basic architectural output that an architect must provide. Now, let's go to the next one, the architect in charge of construction. Again, I will be posting it here on the screen so that you can read along with me. That is, if you wish. Then I may give some 2 cents worth, my thought about this subject, architect in charge of construction. Now, let's pose letter B. Architect in charge of construction means an architect registered and licensed under this act who is directly and professionally responsible and liable for the construction supervision of the project. Again, it is very clear that the architect in charge of construction is the main professional, responsible in the implementation, construction, or erection of the project. Now, to add, the architect in charge of construction is actually not the main designer of the project. Please note on that, but rather the implementer of the design of the architect of record and or other disciplines or other designers of that particular project. I will post it on our screen and you may read it with me. Let us see. Consulting architect means the architect registered and licensed or permitted to practice under this act who is professionally and academically qualified and with exceptional or recognized expertise on specialization in any branch of architecture. Well, basically, the consulting architect must be well versed in the ins and outs of the practice of architecture, and he must have the experience, the knowledge, and most important, the meat of what architecture is all about and being an active practitioner in the Philippines. And the main task of consulting architect is to give proper and correct advices or suggestions to the clients, colleagues, and co-workers in the project. Well, I don't need to go much deeper in explaining those because it was well classified and defined in this act. By the way, please take note that the architect may perform services, you know, as an architect of record and or architect in charge of construction and or consulting architect. Now that's depending on the needs of the project or the client, of course. And not to mention, by the way, that the architect must be commissioned to do a role or those roles by the client. I don't think there's a need for me to expound further on this. Well, I guess I have already consumed more than the time allotted for this short video, and I would not continue further to discuss number 3 to number 14 under section 3 definition of terms. But no worries, I will be setting another short videos as my continuation of those items under section 3 and the rest of the articles and sections of Architecture Act of 2004. So, let us see each other again on my upcoming short videos on RA 9266. And now, if you happen to like this video, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel entitled All About Shelters. And if you have done so, thank you very much. And if you think that it is worth sharing this video and other of our videos at All About Shelters, please press those share and like buttons. And I will be posting the link below for you to touch those buttons. And of course, I wish to thank you in advance for doing so. Again, this is Architect Edric Marco C. Florentino, your host for All About Shelters, and see you in my other videos. Bye for now.